You giggle when you're coming right on.
Right.
I am so excited this week. We have got a whole group of authors, and I'm going to get my head out of the way and start moving them forward so you can hear what they have to say. We've got Alexa Aston, C.H. Admirand, Lisa Kline, and Jenny Hartwell. Ladies, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
It's nice to be here.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So this was a big release week at Dragonblade this week, and we're starting 2 new series. So Alexa and Jenny are both starting a new series. Lisa has a standalone, and TH has book 3 in the Duke's Guard series that's going to go on forever. So I'm very excited about that too. So TH, can you tell us about your book?
Sure. The hard part is I was already writing on 2 books from this one, so you have to excuse me. This one is Michael O'Malley. He's the 3rd man in the mega series. There's 16 men in the Duke's Guard. It's actually a spin-off series of my first series, The Lords of Vice. And they just like popped on the page in the O'Malleys, and I'm like, I could write about Irishmen. It's in my family, hard-headed, stubborn men who, they're just so adorable, but like in a grumpy kind of, well, anyway, I always wish the men in my life would listen to me. The men in my stories don't listen to me either, but Elaine knows this about me. So I paired him up with a very independent female who's a widow, and she has a 14-year-old son. And they're used to doing things themselves, but trouble has come to their existence. They're on a tenant farm in the Viscount Chatsworth's property. And there's just people that have it in for Chatsworth, who is a relative of the Duke of Windermere. So they're always out to get the new Duke because, I don't know, it just seemed to be the thing to do at the time. And you know how sometimes you feel like everybody's out to get you? Well, in this book, they are. So they're constantly faced with problems, and it's just how the men solve the problems and try to protect the women who don't want to be protected. Because we can do it on our own. And the heck with them. Well, but they are so kissable, and they have these broad shoulders, and you just want to lay your head on them, but you can't because you're being independent and you want him to know that you can do this. So
they assume if you start putting your head on their shoulders that they get other stuff too. It's like it's never just
they're like
strings attached.
This is a good start. This is going my way, and then you're like, no. But yeah. So, and it's different because he has the sight. He's the first one in this generation. Yeah, the book opens up that way. I didn't know it was going to do that. That was a surprise. He knew. He could have told me when I was doing the synopsis, but he held that back from me. So, but anyway, so it's a little.
You sit down if they behaved themselves.
I should be used to it, Evelyn. I don't know why I can't get used to this, but. Anyway, so in a nutshell, kind of, that's my.
Oh, it sounds like so much fun. And that's the Duke's Shield, and it's book 3 in the series.
Yes.
Awesome. So, Alexa, you've got a new series launching today.
Yes, it's actually
tomorrow. It's tomorrow. Well, when this airs, it will be the day. So
you're right. Okay. Yes, it's called Suddenly a Duke. And this is a series about women that are inappropriate, in the Ton's opinion, to be duchesses. And of course, the sudden dukes who weren't expecting this title and now hold it, they go after the women that they want. The women have very unusual occupations. One is a dog trainer. One is a Bow Street runner. She's the only female Bow Street runner. I've got a furniture designer. Oh gosh, I can't even think now. Everybody else. One's a music composer, and the first is a portrait artist. And so the setup is that the hero and heroine meet in Portrait of the Duke when she's about to turn 15, and he's just gotten out of university, and he's come to court her sister. And her sister is beautiful, but probably one of the worst people on the planet.
Oh,
and so she pretty much lets this guy know she's not going to be interested in you. Your title isn't lofty enough. And she's just kind of a little smart mouth teenager for back then. And then 9 years later, they meet again. and she's gone through some tragedies, and she does not want to be making her come out at the ancient age of 24, but she does because she wants that in society, because she wants to paint portraits of the time. She's practiced on all the servants, and so now she's ready for some paying clients. And she had actually painted Daniel's portrait after they met, and then she's going to be commissioned to paint his portrait again because of his matchmaking grandmother. And so that's kind of the setup between all of them. And Daniel and Margaret will appear in other books. If you're familiar with any of my series, I like to have characters recur. They can all be read as standalones, but you'll see Daniel and Margaret throughout several of the books.
I love that. I love when we get to revisit characters that we've already fallen in love with, especially when we get to see them.
It's just like old home, I mean, you could read it straight and they could just be another couple that sits at a table, at a ton ball dinner. But the people that have already read their story, they have that little insight into them and everything. And so, and I always love at the end of a series, that last epilogue in the final book, to mention every couple and wrap it up and package it into the bow and everything, so that people know where everyone stands.
Yeah.
So we've got this first girl, Margaret, who she wants to be an artist, and she doesn't like all the feelings that she is feeling about this guy who is now a duke at this point. And of course, Dolly, the sister, is a little upset that she didn't hang on to him and married somebody else. But anyway, it's just,
she was a terrible person, and we don't care whether she gets her happily ever after or not.
She is. Readers are going to hate Dolly. They really are. My editor has said before, it's okay, make a bad person as bad as possible. You can't make a villain too bad. And Dolly isn't necessarily the villain of the story. She's just not a very nice person. She's very self-centered, and she's not sensitive to her sister's needs. And she's just kind of what you don't want to be. She's the opposite of Margaret. So,
well, we needed her to be that. Otherwise, the hero would have been locked down already. And
that's right. That's right.
So, well, that sounds like fun. And I saw the music
for the Duke is the second one. It's also on pre-order.
I wasn't sure about the title.
That's Amy and Thea, and they will become good friends with Daniel and Margaret. This is a longer series. Normally, my series are about 5 books long, and this is going to be an 8-book series.
Oh, wow.
It's a little incestuous trying to bring that many couples in. And so there are going to be some books where you'll only see maybe a couple of the previous hero and heroines. So, but I mean, throughout the whole series, you're going to get to make a lot of friends. And it was fun researching as well. Like I said, one was a dog trainer. She's going to be training strictly English Springer Spaniels. So I have to do some research on that. The former history teacher in me loves the research part, and, studying furniture of the period and how you would go about designing and creating that. And then I took a class through the Regency fiction writers on Bow Street Runners. And that was about 2 years ago. And so that was always in the back of my mind. Ooh, someday I'm going to write a runner. But I didn't know she was going to be a female.
Yeah.
She came along. And that's funny because Shelby will be a runner who is called upon to solve a couple of cases that are in the previous books. And then
cool. So we'll get to know her ahead of time.
I like that.
The series. So, yeah.
Oh, yay. Oh yeah. Well, I'm excited about the new series, and I love that it's so long, because then you can kind of get attached and stay attached for a long period of time instead of hopping in and out. Oh, great. Well, we have 2 brand new authors, not brand new for Dragonblade, not entirely brand new for Dragonblade this week. Ladies, I'm so excited that you could talk to us. Lisa's book launched first, so we'll go ahead and I'm sorry, Jenny's book launched first, so we'll go ahead and start with Jenny, if that's okay. And Jenny's book is the first book and also in a new series. And I love the idea of this. It's How to Court a Covert Lady, and it's the Covert Ladies Academy, or the Ladies Covert Academy. I did it wrong in my head every single time I did it. But I love that idea. And she's a fencer. Like, how cool is that?
Fencer. Yes, if anybody's seen the cover, she's standing there with her sword up,
very cool,
which is so fun. I love that design. And I'm happy to come after Alexa because I'm hearing some common things here. I'm also a former history teacher. So I got to put my history knowledge to work in this series. And I also have a bunch of improper ladies. So we love to read about women who are supposed to be doing one thing, but want to do something else. So How to Court a Covert Lady is the story of a lady fencer who takes a stab at adventure and love. And it's the first in this exciting new Regency trilogy about a quiet London charity group for proper young ladies that's really serving as the front for a covert academy where women can pursue the work and studies that are not deemed proper by Regency society.
I love that.
Oh, that sounds good. Yeah.
So my heroine had witnessed something really horrible when she was young, and it made her afraid. And then one day she saw someone fight off some pickpockets with a sword. And so she thought, well, if I could learn to defend myself with a weapon, I can go back out into the world and not be fearful anymore. And so she ends up joining this academy and trains in fencing and becomes quite proficient. And she even gets like a pink parasol that has a blade hidden in it, so she can go out and everyone thinks that she's just a normal lady.
Yeah.
But she's got her secret weapon there. So each of the 3 stories in the trilogy is about a woman who breaks the mold and forges her own path on her quest to be her true self and do the things she really wants to do, and perhaps finds love along the way.
Oh, yay. So who is the hero of this book?
His name is Jack, and he's an aristocrat, and his sister, unbeknownst to him, is also a member of this organization.
Oh, cool.
And one day she goes missing,
Oh.
and he thinks, she's just gone from her charity group, but he gets really worried and he doesn't know what's going on. And so he pays a call, and everything's just really fishy. It's sus, as the kids say. Like there's just weird stuff going on. No one's really giving him answers. So he kind of spies around the academy a bit and sees our heroine fencing, and he's like, there's something more going on here. And so he basically blackmails her and says, I know there's something strange going on at this place, and there's more than meets the eye. And so unless you help me find my sister, I'm going to expose your secrets. And so she has to help him find the missing sister, and they end up hunting down clues. They go to the Bow Street Runners at one point. So Alexa and I have some nice connections there. They end up on a road trip up the Great North Road to try to find her. And so that was one of my games in the Dragonblade Reader Takeover group on Tuesday was who would be in your carriage with you if you were on a carriage road trip. And so they work together, and he is very stern and proper, and he had kind of an unconventional upbringing. So it's very important to him to toe the line and be proper. And she's starting to fall for him, but knows that she is very improper. And if people would know about her secrets, she would be ruining his reputation. So she thinks that they can't have love.
Oh, I love that. I love that when the wound leads to the thing that keeps them from being together. It's like the story kind of drives itself. That's
right.
That sounds like so much fun. And there are 2 other books in the series.
One of them is about that missing sister, and then another one is about the cousin of the heroine in the first book. And so one of them, the cousin is a botanist, and the sister is a political writer.
Ooh,
very interesting.
We're going to get to learn all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, it sounds great, and I'm looking forward to reading that one and then the other books in the series as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, sounds great.
So Lisa has a book that is it's historical fiction. It's a standalone, and they're on deck. They're on chairs. I've been thinking about this since I saw the cover. What it would be like to be floating around with some dude on the chair next to you.
Yes, that's right.
And based on the true story as well, right?
Yes. I found out about this story back in 2018. They started writing about it in the Charlotte Observer. I live in North Carolina, and they found the remains of the steamship Pulaski at the bottom of the ocean, about 40 miles off the coast of North Carolina. And they were bringing up a lot of artifacts, and the Pulaski sank in 1838, and there were a lot of wealthy people on board. There were Southerners who were escaping this summer, and they were going up north, and they were going to be staying for a long time. So they were going to be entertaining. So there was silver and china and
Yep.
jewelry and, lots of gold pieces. They've brought up just many, really valuable gold pieces. So there was a lot coming up from that wreck. And I was interested in it, and I wanted to write about it. And then I saw this article that was published at the time in the Delaware Gazette that said that two people who had noticed each other on board but never been officially introduced to each other survived on two deck settees that were lashed together. And it was an account of how the guy, and I named him Daniel. Your hero was named Daniel too, Alexa. I named my hero Daniel, had lashed the two settees together and used a sail and some other flotsam from the ship and created a raft. And he had pulled Lavinia, I named her Lavinia, up on the raft with him. And they were there floating for 4 days before they were rescued. And when they were rescued, they were engaged to be married. And I found that story just fascinating, that they hadn't known each other at all. And 4 days later, they were engaged. And then, according to the article, he said, "Oh, well, I lost everything, and you can break the engagement if you want to." And she said, "No, I love you for who you are." And I just thought it was a fascinating story. And it may not have been true. Some people have said, some of the sources that I read said that the reporter might have made it up, or it might have been just a story that was written to gain readership or something like that. So it's kind of a legend in a way, I guess, from that shipwreck. But I just thought, what would it be like during those 4 days with a person that you really have never met before, trying to survive? And I can see how you could fall in love, especially with the trauma and all the high emotions. But then once you get back to regular life, can a marriage survive that? So I just started thinking about all those things, and that's how I got started writing this story. And then at the time, it was right before COVID hit. I wanted to go to Savannah, which is where the ship had left from and where my main character was from, but everything was closed down, and I was doing a lot of remote research, and that sometimes doing remote research can take weeks, when if you could just go there, it would take an hour to figure out the question that you're trying to answer. So I did eventually get a chance to go to visit Savannah and come up with imaginary places for her family owns a millinery shop because my grandparents owned one, and I just thought I wanted to sort of honor my grandparents by using that. But I thought about where to put the shop and where to put her house and things like that. And it ended up being a really fun trip to go and do the research. And it's just, it really, you all are all experienced with history and historical fiction. And it was a completely new effort for me. So it had many twists and turns.
I love the way you came to the story, and I love when I was reading the blurb and it said, and I'm sorry that I'm out of sync again. I'm like a bad dubbed movie. I loved that you did that. Can you trust you see somebody across the way, and can you trust that feeling? That was such a universal feeling, that idea that you see somebody and you have that instant, oh, but like, is that really a thing? And then if you're thrown into
this person, yes. And you always look back and you remember the first time I met this person, and it, and sometimes there seems to be kind of a spark there. Yes, absolutely. So, and I was fascinated by that whole. So the first scene where they meet, they don't exchange any dialogue. They don't speak to each other at all. It's all just through glances and looks, and that was a fun scene to write. So,
oh, great! And I love the idea of getting to go to Savannah to research, because Savannah's a wonderful city.
Yes, absolutely. It was beautiful. Lots of fun.
So we have a little bit of time left, and that kind of leads into something that I'm always interested in, which is how you all do your research, how you come up with your story ideas. I know, Jenny, you said you were a history teacher. I know Alexa was a history teacher. Colleen's people talk to her in her sleep.
Yeah.
She's haunted. She has people in the house that talk to her. And Lisa, I love the idea of that thing that sparks your mind, and you start doing the what if kind of thing. So maybe we could talk a little bit about where, like, the genesis of your story ideas, and then how you go about doing the research for your books.
Okay.
Alexa, would you start?
This series, I had to research occupations for women. That was kind of the driving force of this series, because I had to find things that women of that age could do successfully, and yet would be inappropriate in the eyes of polite society and everything. And so that's really what drove a lot of my research, was, figuring out what the heroines could do. Like I said, I took the class on the Bow Street Runners. I've got different books on the Regency era. I scanned the internet all of the time. And so I just came up with occupations, a dress designer, the milliner. One of my girls, heroine, she even trains other men. She's not the dog trainer. She's a man trainer. Think about Downton Abbey.
I have one of those books too. That's entirely different kind of training.
He didn't really know what to do or how to, play the game. And so she is someone who's kind of down on her luck, and but she is of the ton. And so she trains men and molds them so that they will be good, eligible bachelors, and, be able to find appropriate wives and everything. So, like I said, this series, that's what drove everything. The last series that I did last year was Second Sons of London. And that was a series where almost all of the men, except one, had gone away to war. And so I've done tons of research on the Napoleonic Wars and, what went on during that time. I usually center something around one specific battle before the hero finds out, that he's going to have to resign his commission and return, because he now has responsibilities since he's inherited a title. So like I said, I have tons of books. I scour the internet, and like Colleen, my people start talking to me. I walk every morning, and as I'm walking, I hear conversations in my head, and I start dictating what they're saying into my phone. And sometimes, I get home and I'm typing up and transcribing my notes, and it's like, where did this come from? I mean, it's almost spooky sometimes.
Yeah.
So,
Channeling. Yeah.
So you get the the characters before you get the plot as a result of the researching that you're doing.
I have to actually get the name first, and I know this.
Wow.
For some readers, or writers, it might even be like, "What?" I have to hit on the right name, and I will spend 2 or 3 days trying to get the right name, the right 2 names that go together, and everything springs from the name. Once I have the name, I start building the character sketch. Then I start building the foundation of the backstory, and then start pulling the research in, and it goes from there.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you ever get the wrong name?
Nope. I will not commit to a name until I am 1,000% sure.
I was just thinking, because lots of times I leave just like capital letters name, because I don't know. I'm wondering if you have to change.
I have to be able to see them. I run a movie in my head as I write. As I type, he entered the room and crossed the drawing room or something. I see he's either going left to right or right to left. I mean, I run that movie and everything. And so, no, I've got to have the person's name. It cannot be Mr. No Name, Mr. Duke. No, not Dr. No, not Duke.
Number 3. So, Jenny, you said you were also a history teacher. Did you just general history, or was there a specific time period that you taught?
General. I taught in a high school, and so I taught U.S. history and world history, and for a dozen years, and so it was a great foundation to just kind of know some of the stuff going on at that time period. And I'm sure this is true for all of us. We all love to read, and so through reading lots and lots of historical romances, that also builds a foundation. But I like to start with kind of the hook or the premise of the series, which for me was this idea of the secret academy hiding as a charity group that was, improper women pretending to be proper, and then dive into some research from there. So for my first book, I got to study fencing, which was really fun, and I didn't know anything about it. And so I was, just reading about the terms of fencing, how fencing works, how they score it, kind of the history of it. Because in the Regency, they did have, training schools for men to learn fencing. But I also found all these historical historical drawings of women also studying fencing, often in their undergarments, because those dresses were bulky. But it was fun to learn that the women were out there doing that too, although it wasn't as common. I have not had the opportunity to fence yet, but I would love to do it someday. And it's kind of fun to see it cropping up in pop culture. I don't know if any of you watched Wednesday.
Oh, yeah.
But there's some fencing scenes in there. And I was like, oh, this is fun. This is very timely. So I love this idea of women with weapons. Women tigers, hidden in their pockets or their reticules or down their boots, and hidden swords. And the idea of these demure, proper women, really being tough baddies who can take care of themselves, it really appealed to me. So it was really fun to do the research on the fencing for this one.
That makes sense. The idea of pushing pushing characters beyond what you expect them to do, because there had to be people outside of the expectations and watching how they navigate that.
Right. And it's kind of true for the flip side, because I have my heroine kind of working outside of what's proper. And she really challenges the hero because he's an aristocrat. He's a white man in a time when he had a lot of privilege. And so she really challenges him to think about his idea of society and sexism and, why should women be limited? And, he starts out very stodgy. And by the end of it, he's really transformed from his experience of working with her to find his sister. And he has a new appreciation for why women are full people, which to us in this modern time sounds so ridiculous. But in the Regency time, that was really kind of radical. And so I love to challenge that expectation as well for how men would view the idea of feminism at the time.
Oh, that sounds like so much fun. And I love that. I love the idea that he came to the stodgy and proper for reasons that are kind of fundamental to who he is, which makes the learning and growing and being changed by the heroine that much more powerful.
Yes. Yeah. I got to root it in, what happened. You talked about the wound. I love Lisa Kline's writings about, what's it called? Story Genius, about finding out
that's a wonderful book.
What the character's misunderstanding is, rooted from something that happened when they were young, that they still have with them, that kind of drives some of their choices.
Yeah. That's a wonderful book, especially for understanding characters, the reason that they don't do the thing that they know that they want.
Right.
It's like I want this, but what's the belief that's keeping you from being able to step into that place?
Exactly.
Awesome. So, Colleen, aside from letting them talk to you,
do I do research? Yes,
yeah,
I do. I started my research library in 1994 when I first started writing. And, it's amazing the number of places you could, back then you could go to rummage sales and at the church, and you would find these amazing books that had to do with the topics you're writing on. I found this great one on Wellington. And then I found another book that was called something Madness. And I forget it was but it had to do with the Regency, written by Venetia. I think Murray was her last name. I have it in the other room, but I'm not going to go get it. But so I built my library because, back then there was no internet. I'm sorry. There was no email. There wasn't even a fax machine that you could, I can't believe I'm admitting this, but so I needed to have these things at my fingertips, because in the middle of the night when you have an idea and you're like, oh my God, I got to go check that out. And you go downstairs, you grab a book. Yes, there it is, the information I have. And there's some great research books out there. I have I have medieval ones. I have ones from the U.S. history. Ireland, Wales, England. I have a bunch of them, and I have a couple of time periods that I like to write in, so the information is really familiar after all these years. So, but there's things like you might need to know, like how long would it take him to ride a horse from the Lake District over to Cornwall? Because this is what happened in the last book. And I'm like, okay, well, it's got to get there fast. I was like, well, that's not happening unless he changes this many horses, this many hours apart. And it's math. Oh my God, I never thought I'd have to do math doing research. Sorry.
But it needs to be plausible. We have to be able to believe it. It's like it needs to be
right.
It needs to be plausible. The same thing with heroines that do different jobs. It's like it has to be something. It has to be plausible enough that I can buy into it, so I can go on the ride with you.
And you have to give a reason. Sometimes the reason you think, oh, that's not a really good reason because she just doesn't like him, or she doesn't like the way he combed his hair. I don't know, something silly like that. But Alexa, I have to apologize for laughing when you were talking about names, because I had that name set for Rescued by the Lion. I knew what his name was. I knew that he was going to be in the King's Dragoons. And all of a sudden he's like, that is not my name. That sounds like a butler. And I'm like, oh, yes. Oh my God. But it turns out he was a captain in the Royal Navy and he had to come home to assume the title. But a whole day I'm like, oh my God, Alexa, what do I do? That's his name. No, it's not my name. Sorry. So to really have someone, because I can't write their story. Like you said, I can't write it unless I have to know their name, because then I already have the image of what they're going to look like. And like you said, I see it, as I'm writing it. And then I have to go back in the real world to let the dogs go outside. And it's like, where am I? Oh, yeah. Wilds of northern New Jersey, here I am. I'm not in England anymore. So,
Lisa, we already talked a little bit about how you came up with your story ideas. So I'm really curious if there's something that's coming up next for you. If there's an idea that you're tickled by yet, or
I have another book coming out, but it's not historical fiction, so I don't know if I should mention it.
That's fine.
But it's a story that's coming out in June, and it's called Ladies' Day, and it's about a grandmother who finds who she thinks might be a long lost granddaughter that she didn't know that she had. And the grandmother kind of hacks around the golf course with some friends, and it's like a women's friend book where her group of friends are the women that she plays golf with, but also the young girl is a good golfer, and so there's kind of a connection between the grandmother who thinks this could be her granddaughter, and it's also a romance. There's a love story in it too.
We love a good love story.
But I wanted to say, all of you talking about your research, you all are such experts at it, and I am such a neophyte. I would say I would be typing on this book and I'd say they got in the carriage, and I'd go, what kind of carriage? I don't know what kind of carriage. And I would have to stop everything for 2 days while I tried to do that research. And some people can just put little brackets around and keep going. But for some reason, I get to something and I don't know the answer, and I just have to find it out before I can move on. So it was a really stop-start process for me, but really educational and challenging, and something I'm very very happy that I stuck to it and got through. So
we're happy too.
I admire all of you all so much, very much. So
we're happy you stuck to it too, because that means we get to read it. And I have been thinking about what it would be like to be stuck on a deck chair with somebody that you had that spark with since it came across my desk. So I'm really looking forward to it. So ladies, this was a delight to talk to you today. I really appreciate you taking the time. I'm going to say the same thing I say every week, which is that you want to get your Dragonblade books release day or pre-order period, because that's when they are the very best deal, and they are the very best deal. If for some reason you missed the window, you can always read in Kindle Unlimited as well. And I'm going to put the links for all the books in the comments of the chat. So if you haven't got yours yet, you can get it and have your weekend reading and beyond set for you. So thanks so much for taking the time to be with us, and we will be back here next week, same time. Thanks, ladies.
Thank you, everyone.
thank you. It was